You step off the bus into a floodlit lot after midnight, and for the first time in your life, you are nobody. No rank. No name anyone will use. Just a number in a formation and a stranger in a wide-brimmed hat whose voice is now the only one that matters. Somewhere in the first hour, you're paired with another recruit you've never met, your battle buddy. From this moment, you're each responsible for knowing exactly where the other one is, at all times. It sounds small. It is the first rule of the next 10 weeks, and it will not be the last time this life asks you to be accountable for someone else before you've earned the right to be in charge of yourself. Level 1. Recruit. The next 10 weeks are not chaos. They are a system. In the first phase, you sit in a classroom and learn Army values, history, and customs before you've done anything to earn wearing the uniform at all. Then comes the part most people associate with basic training. You carry a rifle for the first time and are taught to hold it like it matters, because it does. You learn basic marksmanship. You learn hand-to-hand movements you hope you never need. You navigate by map and compass across ground that doesn't care whether you get it right, and you rappel from a 50-foot tower with your stomach in your throat. And when you fail to meet a standard, a bed not made right, a weapon not cleaned right, you are smoked. Corrective exercise, repeated, exact, until the standard is the only thing your body remembers. It is not random cruelty. It is the Army's oldest tool for making sure you can be trusted later, when trust is the only thing standing between you and someone else's safety. You sleep in a barracks, in a bunk with a locker, and you eat 3 meals a day on someone else's schedule. By the end of 10 weeks, you are not who stepped off that bus. You just don't know yet what that's for. Level 2. Junior enlisted. What comes after is quieter. And that's the part nobody tells you about. You arrive at your first unit still near the bottom, a private learning the actual shape of your job under the eyes of soldiers who've done it longer than you've been alive to some of them. Promotion here runs on a clock more than a performance review. A private first class in about a year, a specialist in about 2. And for a while, the job is simply to become competent enough that someone with more rank trusts you unsupervised. There is no ceremony in this stage. There is no single dramatic test. There is only the slow, unglamorous accumulation of the ability to be trusted with more, one repeated task at a time, until one day the person checking your work stops checking. Level 3, Sergeant. Then, usually 3 or 4 years in, you make Sergeant, and the ground shifts under you in a way nothing else in this career quite matches. You are handed a squad. For years, your job was to execute the task in front of you. Now your job is to hand that task to someone else and trust them to do it without you standing over their shoulder. You inspect their equipment before a mission, not because you don't trust them, but because it's now your name attached to the answer if something's missing. You relay orders instead of just receiving them. You counsel soldiers through personal problems that have nothing to do with the mission, because that's also the job now, whether or not anyone specifically trained you for it. This is where you join what the Army has called its backbone since Valley Forge, a title covering every NCO rank from here up, not just this one. The phrase isn't decoration. Officers set the direction, but it's the sergeants who turn that direction into what actually happens on a given Tuesday, in a given formation, with people watching to see if you're any good at this yet. The first time you stop doing the work yourself and start trusting someone else to do it, something in how you see the entire job changes permanently, and it doesn't change back. If your unit deploys during these years, the job stops being theoretical in a different way. A Pentagon review of deployed troops found soldiers averaging somewhere between 5 3/4 and 6.5 hours of sleep a night, and something like a quarter to nearly 2 in 5, saying the pace of the work simply didn't leave them enough time to rest at all. Under that kind of pressure, the world narrows to whatever's directly in front of you. Your awareness of everything around you sharpens and doesn't turn off when you want it to. And there's a specific kind of exhaustion that comes from staying alert on too little sleep for too long. None of that goes away because you made rank. If anything, as a sergeant, you're now managing that exhaustion in other people too, not just carrying your own. Level 4, First Sergeant. Years of that. And if you keep rising, you become one of the soldiers this whole structure quietly depends on. A platoon sergeant. And eventually, if the path holds, a first sergeant, the senior enlisted soldier in an entire company. By now, you likely carry 15, 18 years of this life inside you. And it shows in how fast you're expected to make a call that balances the mission against a soldier's actual well-being. As first sergeant, you become the point almost everything runs through. Every formation, every problem a platoon sergeant can't solve alone, every question the commander has about the people underneath them. You are responsible now not just for soldiers, but for their training, their health, and, quietly, constantly, for their families too. Nobody outside this life pictures this job. They picture the officer giving the order. They rarely picture the sergeant major or first sergeant, who is the actual place where a company's whole world converges, every single day, whether or not anyone above them notices how much of it lands on that one desk. Level 5, second lieutenant. And then, for some soldiers, the path bends somewhere nobody expects it to. You've spent over a decade becoming one of the most experienced people in every room you walk into. And now you choose to become, again, one of the least experienced people in the room. On purpose. This isn't the road every officer takes. Most commissioned straight out of college through a university ROTC program, or through a service academy, never having worn an enlisted rank at all. But if you hold a 4-year degree and you haven't yet spent 6 years in uniform, there is a door open to you. Officer Candidate School, 12 weeks. Usually built from soldiers already between the ranks of specialist and master sergeant. And on the far side of it, a single gold bar. Second lieutenant. At your commissioning, there's a small old tradition nobody quite agrees on the origin of. You hand a silver dollar to the first enlisted soldier who salutes you as an officer. People will tell you it goes back to the earliest days of the Army, to a time when a new officer was given an experienced enlisted advisor and paid them out of his own salary for the help. Nobody can say for certain that's true. What the gesture means is not in question either way. It's a small physical admission that the respect you're about to receive is borrowed against a debt you haven't paid yet. Because here is the part the popular picture gets almost exactly backward. The moment you pin on that bar, you are, by design, the least experienced person in your own platoon. You will stand in front of 16 to 40-some soldiers, hold real, legal authority over every one of them. And the very doctrine that put you there expects you to lean on your platoon sergeant, who has done this job since before you enlisted, let alone commissioned. Your job, in this first posting, is quietly understood by everyone around you to be learning, not commanding from certainty. The soldiers under you already know this, so does the sergeant standing next to you, who has almost certainly done this exact job longer than you've been in a uniform at all. Authority did not wait for you to catch up in experience. It was handed to you on the assumption that you'd be smart enough to know you hadn't. That's a soldier this life actually builds, not a straight climb where each rung simply outranks the last, but a person who is, at different points, the least experienced one in the room, and, at other points, the one everything else quietly runs through. The job never gets simpler as you rise. It just asks you to depend on other people in a different way, at every single level, on a battle buddy to know where you are, on team leaders to execute what you plan, on a platoon sergeant to catch what your rank alone can't teach you yet. You started this story as a number in a formation owned by a stranger's voice. You end it holding a rank that isn't earned by knowing more than the people around you. It's earned by being trusted to know that you don't, yet, and to stand there anyway.